Welcome to Punchline with Corey and your boy Losey here. We're both coming off of an illness, so this is still us.
Our voices are a little bit raspy and messed up, but we've managed to make it through this week. Buckets of phlegm in the sink. It's been awesome. I actually was down and out for the count. It is gross. Especially when you cough it up and there's almost too much to hold in your mouth. Oh, that's terrible. Reed?
I had a bag full of snot rags.
Let's see. That's one thing I didn't really have was the runny nose, which is I'm so thankful for, because there may be nothing worse in the world than a runny nose. Like, it could be literally like I am the biggest whiner of all time for sure with that one. But
stay tuned for our casserole recipes right after this segment.
I did take Wednesday, and was it Wednesday? Thursday? I think it was Thursday.
Thursday is the day that I didn't do anything.
I shut it down. I slept for 7 hours Thursday. I got up. I did my Bible study at 7 a.m. I had to lead it. I'm not sure how I made it through. Actually, I felt really good during. I felt terrible before, then I felt immediately terrible right after. I don't know if there's just the energy or what. And then I had to my dog's got diabetes, so I had to take care of him. And then I went to sleep, and I slept from about 8:30 till about 10:45. And then I went and got my beard trimmed because we got an event tonight, and I got an auction this afternoon. I went back home, slept another 2 hours, was up an hour. Then I slept another 2 hours, and I was in bed that night at 10:30 and slept hardcore till 8 o'clock Friday morning. So I felt a lot better when I got up yesterday morning, but I know we're not the only two guys that got this thing going on.
I had the same scenario. I powered through. I had the Chasing Dreams assisted on the awards banquet for Hazelwood East Tuesday and Wednesday evening. So we had freshmen, sophomores on Tuesday, and we honored all the honor roll students with keychains and certificates, and gave them and their families a nice dinner, and did the same thing Wednesday. And then Thursday, my body was like, all right, we did that. Now it's time to die for a little bit. And so then I died just for that day and came back. I'm doing a little better now, but also, yeah, we got this thing tonight we got to be all pepped up for, so
get some rest this afternoon.
I'm napping. I took a big nap last night for like 8 hours. I do that from time to time.
Yeah, I don't think that's a nap anymore. After 2, it's no longer a nap.
It's just something I've just gotten used to. I don't know what it is, but like around 9, between 9 and 10 every night, I
at
take
10
a quick
p.m.
nap for 8 hours.
From 10 to 6 in the morning is not considered a nap. It's considered sleep. But I love napping. It's people ask me all the time, what's one of the things you miss most about playing pro hockey? It's like I napped every day, even on days we didn't have games and stuff. Still napped.
Never on the bench.
No, I didn't. I'd like to see you try and nap on the bench with George LaRock staring you down.
That's funny. When you were playing, was there like a snack or a food that everybody was into? Because I know in the NBA, the last couple of years, the big thing has been peanut butter and jellies. Yeah. Like everybody, before the game, after the game, they want a stack of peanut butter and jellies in the locker room. Was there anything like that in hockey?
We never really did in the locker room food. There was never really food around. We would have our pregame meal on the road, and then we would come down back to the conference room that we have in our pregame meal, and they'd have like bagels and peanut butter and jelly and bananas.
What was the first thing you said?
Bagels.
Bagels.
Why? What do you think I said?
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah,
okay.
I understood it.
It's just the way you said it.
It might have come out a little bit jagged.
I like it. I'm going to say.
But yeah, so peanut butter and jelly is always good. The peanut butter weighs you down, but it's amazing. Like, I ate enough for 3 people at pregame, and I would go to sleep for 2.5 hours, and I would wake up and I would be starving. And then we would eat another almost meal just of bread and peanut butter and jelly and bananas and everything else. And then after the game, we were starving. But we would either just go out to eat after the game, or we would get on the plane and we would eat on the plane. So
that's all good.
PB&J making a resurgence is kind of neat. Everything is secular. I just read something about peanut butter and jelly the other day, and I always had a affinity for it as a child, but have a loathing for peanut butter as an adult. I don't like it because it's one of the foods where if you eat it, I feel like I'm eating it secondhand when you talk at me.
Yes, it's strong. I'm gonna throw a couple sandwiches at you guys here that have to do with peanut butter, and I want to get your take. First is peanut butter and jelly, but once you get it together, you take mayonnaise and you put it on the outside of each.
Me.
Hold on.
What?
You put mayonnaise on the outside, and then you have grilled. And you grill the mayonnaise, so it actually acts as a, like, you don't taste the mayonnaise, it just adheres to the bread, so it's like a grilled cheese. So it's a grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I adhere
That's
what
not
you're saying,
terrible.
but
That doesn't sound bad.
try it. I don't care. I'm not a mayonnaise guy.
I'm definitely a fan of
You
toast.
don't even taste the mayonnaise, though. Like, the mayonnaise grills in.
I mean, here's
It
the deal.
cooks up.
Like, I'll try it because I get
yeah.
unruly and upset when my kids are like, I don't want to take a bite. I'll take a bite of just about anything.
Next week, I'm making you one of these for lunch.
That sounds good. Because I used to
All right.
I would toast my bread before I make my peanut butter sandwich because it gets a little warm, makes it a little,
and
you get a little bit of that
it'd be
oil
no
from the
different-
peanut butter.
Be no different than putting butter on the outside, but mayonnaise, and this is the trick for everybody. When you're doing grilled cheese, always mayonnaise. It grills up crispier and firmer than butter does. That's just Chef Losey coming at you, all right? Number 2 sandwich.
I'm going to try it.
Number 2 sandwich, and I have had every single person almost I've ever introduced this sandwich to turn their nose up at me, and I have for those that have tried, which vast majority of people have tried it for me, I have 100% retention that they couldn't believe how good it was. Peanut butter and dill pickle.
That was that?
I don't know about that one.
It is phenomenal, and I don't know
sounds
why it tastes like a BLT.
That sounds more appetizing to me than the other. I used to put peanut
Then there's
butter.
obviously the old peanut butter banana.
I put peanut butter in my
butter
ramen noodles, especially during college years, because it tastes like
Yeah.
pad thai noodles.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I can
That's
understand
not a
that.
terrible idea.
Yeah, that's not
I'm going
bad.
to give that a whirl next time.
Yeah, that's
not
Maybe
bad.
not on my chicken, my beef. Huh?
Either. I don't know what I used it in particular.
I make a ramen dish that will blow your mind.
The odd sandwich that I make that I have good retention on is Pop-Tart. It's a charcuterie board in your hand is basically what it is. So you use an unfrosted Pop-Tart as your bread, and then you put in your favorite spiced hams, capicola, salamis, whatever, and then a nice cheese like a Munster or something white in there like a Swiss, and then you grill it like a grilled cheese sandwich with the Pop-Tarts on either end of it. Preferable is strawberry for me.
That's definitely a high move.
And it started that way
Had to
for sure, and then it ended with just deliciousness. But I mean, it's a charcuterie board if you like it. That there's a handheld pocket one, and I always used to think it'd be cool to have a pop-up restaurant called Pop Smart, and it'd be like healthy Pop-Tart sandwiches.
So, one of my good buddies here in St. Louis, his name's Adam Beck. He likes to make fun of me and being Canadian quite a bit. And so he always tells people that a Canadian pizza is a Pop-Tart with ketchup on it, which it's not. We do not eat that, but he likes to get at me with that one. I don't think it's very nice, but
There's a lot of Canadian things we could probably say that people wouldn't take the time to unprove. Like there was I remember we worked with a few of my buddies all worked together, like in high school. You know, we always had this group of guys that worked together, and one of the things that we did was we started a rumor once that I told everybody, I was like, don't tell anybody, but like, you know, here's something about our buddy Tony, and I told them all he was born without toenails, because it's not like it wasn't going to make people dislike him, but like when we were doing like our summer pool party and stuff, everybody was really trying to get a good look at his feet. He didn't know why. And so I thought that was like a harmless, fun little prank rumor. We could do like the same things with Canada, nobody would know. You could just be like, Canadian people love to go inner tubing, like it's a rite of passage, like we do float trips in Missouri, and people would just be like, oh.
I didn't even know what float trips were until I got to Missouri.
Right, but
and then
you-
I went on,
Really?
and then I went on one, and I'm like, this is awesome. Let's do it again.
But now you can see like all these Americans going up to Canada and being like, so where's this tubing? Like, where do you guys go tubing at? They're like, what are you talking about?
Where we go tubing is behind a boat on a lake.
Yeah, we do that too. But I'm just saying,
Right.
let's start a Canadian tradition that's not one and see how many Americans go ask for it.
There's not. I think most of the rivers in Canada are a little bit more hellacious than the
Yeah.
calm rivers we have here. I think it'd be more like whitewater
Whitewater
rafting. What are we going to talk about today, Corey?
We got 3 different segments today. So we're going to talk about TV dads.
This is good. When you sent me this last night, I was excited.
We shouldn't tell people that. when I sent you this earlier this week.
Oh, sorry.
24
yesterday,
hours.
it's still earlier.
24 hours of prep and radio is pretty good.
How are we supposed to prep for a weekly show on Monday? that doesn't work. Yeah. We prep for a daily show the night before.
Right.
Like we have way too many things to do. And listen, with the stuff that we talk about out here, people know we're not prepping that hard. No. People know we're just getting on the mic and having some fun. For sure. They get it. They love it.
And then our other thing was a couple things that we wanted to talk about in sports this week. So highlighted one cool dad story in sports that I thought was pretty neat that we'll talk about. You've got a kid you're excited about that's playing hockey now in the NHL, and then we're going to talk about the rise in the salary cap for the NFL. And then we wanted to end it out with some profound lessons. So something we've retained from our dads or grandpas that we think is one or two of these good life lessons, and then something we try and pass on to our offspring as well. So to kick it off with TV dads, the idea behind this, when it was kind of going through my head, I had different things about, like, is this the dad I most enjoyed watching on television?
Right.
Is this the dad that I most wanted to emulate on television? Or is this the dad that I most wanted to be the son of on television? And so I had a few different options for different aspects of that, but
mine's more just entertainment.
Me too.
Because you know, there's so many like we could talk about this forever. But I have to start this out without question, my favorite dad, because without question, this guy was 1,000% the most Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, from his on-camera sitcom to his stand-up comedy. And that's
Danny Tanner.
Danny Tanner, Bob Saget.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He was this little single dad with, he had the twin, or were they his twins?
The twins were they played one singular girl, but the youngest daughter.
That's right.
Was Michelle. Yeah.
But what twins are those?
The Olsen twins.
They're multi-billionaires now. And then actually, Candace Cameron was married to Valerie Bure, who I played with in 2003, 2004.
Okay.
I got to hang out with DJ Tanner in the alumni room when I was a healthy scratch.
And the sister of Kirk Cameron.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Small
this
world.
guy is the most unbelievable comedian, the dirtiest, swearingest.
Yep.
Like, it was unbelievable. I think he recently passed in the last couple of years too, if I'm not mistaken.
It's been a bit.
It's been like 5 years.
Has it been a minute?
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, like, that's when I was like, oh, Danny Tanner, you're such a nice guy. And then all of a sudden you see him in stand-up, and it's like 37 F-bombs in 5 minutes.
2022, so it's been 2 years.
2 years, yeah. So I was right. You guys are wrong. Not a big deal. Again. Reed's right. Let me put my surprise face on.
I don't remember a lot of instances where we argued. Yeah, that's definitely a good one. And he had to raise those 3 girls by himself. Thank gosh his brother and best friend came and lived with him.
Yes.
To help out.
What would they have done without him?
Joey was a goof.
What was the crazy friend that you always used to come over that in real life had some crack issues?
In real life had crack issues?
Yeah, she was bad.
With the neighbor?
Yeah, the
really annoying one.
Yeah, the really annoying one. She had some serious drug issues.
Really?
I don't remember that. She's on the new. She's on the new Fuller House also.
Yeah,
Kimmy Gibbler was her name.
Yeah, and she's like rehabbed and she's good to go now. But yeah, she was. She went down a dirty road there.
I bet you there was like a Super Friends, like, you know how they originally had a like a sidekick team where it was just like Robin and like Lightning Lad and all these like. These half-ass sidekicks?
Yes.
Like, I wonder if there was one of those in Hollywood where it was just like Carlton Banks, that chick, Blossom's best friend 6.
Blossom.
like all the secondhand characters.
That's funny.
Blossom.
All the secondhand characters from like other shows where they just all hung out. Like, we were all the neighbors. Or like Growing Pains. You remember Mike Seaver's best friend's name? Was the best nickname ever on a television show? Boner.
Was it really?
That was his best friend's name.
That's
Boner.
awesome.
That's
he used to always come in there like, oh, Boner. Like, oh. And that Boner, before it was a dirty word, was also just used to describe like a dumb move. Like, oh, that's a dumb move. Like, oh, you really pulled a boner.
You can't say that now. Somebody get offended for sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's the context.
Okay.
But that was
I'm
a good
glad you
dad.
clarified.
What other good TV dad do we got out there?
I
I got
was
a plethora of a list here.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
Silver Spoons was Ricky Schroeder. Speaking of like secondhand kids, a lot of the kids that were in other shows later got their start on the Silver Spoons. Like AC Slater was one of his buddies. Carlton Banks was one of his buddies. All these guys were his friends, but that was a single dad. I always thought he was cool, but I think pound for pound, the dad that I thought was most entertaining, funny, and just took care of business, like he was just a dad, was Al Bundy.
Oh, wow, that's a good one. I didn't
Married
even think
with
about
Children. Like
Married with Children's a classic. That's good. That
was a very.
And he's hilarious.
He was kind of like the modern day Archie Bunker with All in the Family, right?
Yes,
like that
I
was your
agree.
everyday Midwestern dad.
I don't think you could do that show today.
You can't. You can't do any of that. You certainly couldn't do Family All in the Family.
Oh, absolutely not.
But he was just kind of a middle of the road guy. He was a shoe salesman, right? And he would come home and crack a beer and put his hand down his pants and then complain about everything. And it was always like you talk about Jekyll and Hyde. That was kind of the darker version, but not he wasn't a bad guy.
No,
he was just like
everyday guy.
that's what the alter ego of a dad would be. It's like, I just want to sit on the couch and do nothing. So he wasn't like active. What's funny is I wonder if we would have had this conversation like 10 years ago, if Bill Cosby would have been like at the top of all of our lists.
He's still on my list.
Yeah.
I love Bill Cosby.
Hey,
He's
yeah.
got a little bit frisky. No big deal.
Hey,
You know,
yeah.
like, that's not cool. But, at the end of the day, Bill Cosby was a dominant father. Yeah. But you can't, before I
He was
go
a
to Bill
dominant man
Cosby,
in real life, too.
He was a little bit dominant, had a few issues.
Just enjoyed a little Spanish fly every now and then. You know?
But I'm going Phil Banks before I go like.
Oh, yeah.
I used to be able to recite that song. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Fresh Prince is great. Yeah.
I can't
Uncle
ever
Phil's
say
definitely out there.
I can't say a location in past tense without finishing that whole song. So if somebody's like, where are you going later? And I was like, or where are you going on vacation? And it doesn't matter if I'm like, oh, Tampa or whatever. I'm like, born and raised. And then I'm after like, oh, the playground is where I spend most of my days. I rapidly say it in my head, just chilling out, relaxing, all cool until it's all done, and I have to finish that whole song. It's one of those things where I can't not do it. But he was great. There was a episode where I remember that the boys got arrested, and he went in there.
That was a good episode.
Yeah, and he was like, "Who are you talking to? Like, these are my sons." Mm-hmm. And then they were like, "Who are you?" And the partner. But the one that really sticks out in my mind, where he showed true fatherdom, was Will Smith's dad continuously let him down.
Why does he want me, man?
Yeah,
that was a great episode.
He continuously let him down, and he, that's ultimately why he was living with his auntie and uncle in Bel Air anyway. And he came into Will's life once again, and then left him, and Will was all upset, and he's like, "Get away from me, blah blah blah." And Phil gave him a tough love talk and a hug, and it reminded me of. When I was a kid, my grandfather was always like a grumpy dude, but like a big heart, right? So like, you didn't really want to cross him, and he always complained about like air conditioning in the neighborhood, standing there with the fridge open, any and every cliche dad thing. And I remember one time I got into a fight in 6th grade, and I came home, and like all the ladies in the family were just really giving it to me. And my mom was in town, and so my mom and grandma and everybody, and he called me down into the dungeon, which was the basement where he built all his models, and he's like, "What's going on? You get into a fight?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Did you start it?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Well, you know what you need, because they're laying it on pretty thick up there. You know what you need." And I started walking towards him, like getting my pants undone, because I was sure I was going to get my butt whooped. And he's like, "You need a hug." And he gave me a hug. And that's probably one of the 3 times ever in my life that he hugged me. And he was like, "Go into your room, and we'll call you when it's time for dinner." And nobody else in the family ever talked about that fight again. He went up and handled it. He only pulled that card a few times, but that's what Phil Banks kind of reminded me of, a similar, very stoic, I'm going to teach you how to make it on your own, but I'm going to love you along the way kind of guy.
There was always lessons that Big Phil was providing, and one of my favorite episodes was when Carlton and Fresh Prince Will went to the pool hall.
Oh, yeah, dude,
they lost
that.
all that money, and then they call their dad, and he comes in and he's got like his hand cupped, and he's
That's
like
awesome,
just terrible, and then he absolutely schools those
Butler
guys.
pulls out the pool stick for him.
Yeah,
and Jeffrey was the best, wasn't he? Like what a great butler Jeffrey was. He was the man. But before we move off this, I don't think we can go any further talking about TV dads if we don't talk a little bit about Homer Simpson, can we?
that was when you said entertainment-wise. That was the entertainment-wise one.
Yes,
that's the relationship that most look in an exaggerated form. My stepfather is fantastic. That was the relationship that most reminded me of me and my stepdad. Because when I lived with my mom and stepdad, I was chaos at all times.
Homer Simpson is an absolute train wreck. I love it. What a great show. I think it's still on the air. Did they finally take that thing off after 742 years?
I'm pretty sure it's the longest running.
I think it's still
television
going.
show.
Yeah,
The longest running. And there's been so many things predicted over the years too, which is hilarious.
Some of that I have to go back and look at what that episode is, because I'm starting to think that they're just like doing the that app where you can make everything look like Simpsons. But you go back and watch those things, they really are predicting stuff.
Yes. Oh, the world's predictable.
But it might be, there was a theory, I believe I read this. I'm certain I didn't make this up. If I did, kudos to me, but I doubt it. Sometimes I'll read something and forget the source. But they talked about how it's probability, right? So if you have to write enough storyline, if you're writing exponential storylines, because it's on like 5 nights a week, then probability states that at some point you're going to run into a rift that would come true. Because there's only so many algorithms and so many possibilities of things that can happen. So probability states that if I wrote out infinite possibilities, then inside of that infinite possibility, there would be some truisms, right? So that could be part of it too. When you're writing 5 episodes a week for 32, how long did you say? 32 years?
At least.
Oh, I think it's more.
It's as old as, well, no, because it started on the Tracy Ullman show as like a side thing in the 80s. If I recall, it was just like a cartoon within a show. She had a variety show.
1989.
Was that when it went on by itself, or the Tracy Ullman?
99, 2009. That's 30.
First episode date was 1989.
Okay,
3 years. That's crazy.
And so before that, it was created by Matt Groening. The Simpsons began in 1987 as a cartoon short on the Tracy Ullman show. So it was just a short for 2 years, and then went on its own. But yeah, it's almost as old as we are. It's older than Joe is.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's got a ways to go to catch
crazy.
me. I'm old.
But yeah, Homer Simpson was definitely an entertaining father. Another good when you think about dads is the not Growing Pains, the Wonder Years. The Wonder Years was very nostalgic for me. I think it was a little before my time as far as when it first aired, but it very much reminded me of my neighborhood growing up with the block parties and the different things.
I don't remember seeing a lot of the dad. It was just the kid and the girlfriend, wasn't it?
No, it was the mom and dad, the 2 brothers, and the sister.
I've never seen it.
I think that one sucks.
A lot of it took place around the table.
I think you should just flush that right down the toilet, right, Joe?
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
You're right.
Loser.
I'm going to change more.
Replace it with Lost in Space.
I'm going to change more of my opinions based on other people's opinions. Joe, what about you? What's your dad's?
You guys named a few. I'm definitely putting. Who did I write down? Uncle Phil, Carl Winslow. Definitely Family Matters.
Definitely.
Good
Carl
dad,
Winslow was bad.
I mean, so every now and then he was an ass to the neighbor, but as a father, he was pretty good.
He was also
a pretty stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He was also great in the. I'm drawing a blank. The first Bruce Willis movie,
Not
Die Hard.
Die Hard. Was it Die Hard? Yeah, it was Die Hard. Yep.
The Nakatomi
He
building.
was good in that.
He was also in Crocodile Dundee.
Was he really?
was,
Oh yeah, he was the.
He took
was
the boomerang off, and Crocodile Dundee kept asking
He was the
him,
limo driver.
He's like, "What tribe are you from?" He's like, "I'm not from any tribe. I'm from Queens."
Crocodile Dundee. What a great show.
Yeah, Winslow always played a cop. He played a cop in quite a few movies.
Yeah, you're right. He did always play cop. That's pretty good.
Yeah, there was another cool show that was called Rock.
Rock was
on
really
Fox.
good. Yeah,
he was a trash man, but he
it didn't last very long, but it was good. Yeah,
Yeah, it was probably 3 seasons or so.
yeah. He stood up to that one gang member that one time.
Yeah, he didn't care.
Yeah, he didn't care at all.
I don't know the guy's name, but I think it was probably pretty profound back when the show came out. But Different Strokes. A white,
you can put him up there, yeah.
A white male father with a white male daughter and adopted 2 black kids. That was profound back in the day.
That's pretty good. Yeah, he has to be up there.
I'm trying to remember his name because
I can't think of his name either.
It was Emmanuel Lewis, right? What you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Willis?
Different
Arnold,
strokes takes different strokes to rule the world.
No,
the world don't march.
We shouldn't do that, especially with sick voices.
That's probably better from my voice. It's not going to be good either way. But while he's looking that up too, there was
Conrad Bain. His name was Philip Drummond in the
Drummond.
Yeah, Mr. Drummond.
Mr. Drummond.
Yeah, for sure.
That's pretty good.
Movie-wise, My Three Dads.
Ooh, movies. That's tough.
That was a good one, My Three Dads, just because there's 3 of those guys
yeah,
there.
That's good.
But that's for another time, another place.
For movies, got to put Big Daddy on there. Adam Sandler.
Oh, yeah. That's just the dad we all want to be, right there.
Dent cans and let your kid pee in the streets of New York, though.
Speaking of dads, let's get started into our sports talk. We'll talk about this subject before we go to our first break with dads and sports. In other words, so on this last week here.
At LASIK Plus, we know LASIK is a big decision, and every one of our patients is unique. That's why we customize your LASIK journey to you.
I only have a certain budget.
No problem. Right now at LASIK Plus, get 20% off LASIK when treated in April. That can be over $900 off when treating both eyes, plus guaranteed financing options. So visit mylasicoffer.com today to start your journey towards 20/20 vision. Must mention this promotion to be treated in April of 2024 to qualify. 20% off standard price of wave light procedure. Cannot be combined with any other offers. Go to mylasicoffer.com for details.
Del Curry got the opportunity to announce a game in Charlotte where both of his sons played on opposing teams. Steph for the Warriors and Steve Seth, yeah. Steph.
They're really close.
Steph and Seth. It's just the last 2 letters. Playing for the Charlotte, which is where their dad played. Del played for that team before that.
Sure did, yeah. Forgot about that. Yeah.
So what a cool experience as a father to be able to watch your 2 sons play against each other or just both make it to that level. Like, I always think about how cool it would be to be at the Manning table, like be one of those, except if you're the AutoZone brother, right? Because he's the only one without
Cooper.
a ring. Yeah. Any other family, he'd be a huge success.
But everyone says Cooper was the most athletic one until his neck injury. So we never really know how good Cooper could have been.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, but now he owns AutoZones, and by any other family's proximity, he would be a great success. He owns like 27 AutoZones in Texas.
And then
he had to get a loan for that?
Probably.
And then Arch Manning is at Texas.
Yeah.
And he made $2.8 million in NIL last year, and he didn't play one snap.
Yeah, they're
ridiculous.
They're Manning,
and he's not going to play this year either.
And he's the highest paid player in the team probably. And he's not even making anything just because his last name.
Yep.
But as prolific as it is, it happens fairly often when you think about father-sons being in sports together. But that being Del Curry being able to announce a game where both of his sons are playing, one for the team he used to play for, I mean, that's got to be a pretty cool experience. Outside of that, I don't know if there's many father-son triple combos in there. There's been some brothers that have played each other against in the NFL. That's happened quite a bit.
The Griffies, Ken Griffey.
Yeah.
That's about it, really.
Well,
LeBron James may be next.
We're going to see about LeBron, right?
Yeah, LeBron may be next.
Tiger Woods, y'all.
Yeah. Charlie Woods
Charlie just lit the course up with a solid 86 the other day in his first trial. Oops. Had a 12. Had a 12. I don't even shoot 12s.
I wonder if that was because he's been good. I wonder if that's just the pressure. It's his first qualifier.
Yeah.
And just thinking about, hey, I got to do it because my dad did it at this age.
Then again, I don't know. Like, I think the reason that Tiger was so exemplary at his sport when he was young is similar to why Pat is so good at his sport at such a young age. Mahomes is because those 2 guys, you can see a difference in their mental athleticism. Right, like you can tell when younger guys are visibly shaken or a little bit inside their head or making silly mistakes. Tiger Woods, when he was early on, it wasn't so much that he was aggressively attacking and being good in that way. He played a perfect game in the sense that he kept his wits about him and he didn't like risk anything. He just waited for other people to mess up.
I would say at that time though, he had nothing to lose. No one knew who he was. He was like, it was amazing to see someone that young doing it.
But
still,
what kid plays consistent and just waits for other people to mess up? Most kids want to go out there and prove himself and be this. That.
I agree. I agree. I agree with that.
Played
but
even Stevens.
I can feel like at that point he didn't really have any pressure.
No,
because everyone's gonna. I don't think so. When he first started,
yeah, dude.
I don't think so. I think people are saying,
"Oh, the kid was on TV when he was like 5 years old, driving a ball 97 yards or something."
And even though there was other minorities in the sport, he was prolifically known as the first like minority golf player that was good.
But so at that time, no one was going to destroy him if he didn't qualify.
No,
I feel like nowadays, though, if there's a Tiger Woods now. And you don't qualify at 17, they're going to say something about you. Like, oh, yeah,
what's
he's
the
not
well-dressed kid that everybody talks about all the time that he's fairly young?
But you guys, before we go off of Tiger here, his father, the way that he raised him, and
true.
It was like he was in the Army his whole life.
True.
Like you just sit there and hit balls and hit balls and hit balls. Well, I have a blister. Hit balls.
Same like Serena and Venus.
You are mentally, you can't break. And so that's why I think Tiger was so great. But I also think why his fall was so great, because you can't steel trap a human mind like that as hard as his father did and then expect that to last forever, because at some point in time, the human body, the human mind will break. That's why spiritual has such a power in this world, is because the human mind can't handle that kind of pressure for as long as it did. And obviously, when it come to his wife and then, the accidents and all the other stuff that came down, now Tyler can barely even golf. He's absolutely destroyed his body. A lot of it has to do with the veracity of his swing and how he attacked a ball. But it all started back with his dad doing I don't know anybody that has their kid on a golf course or a driving range for 4 hours a day at 2 years of age, right? His dad was crazy.
That makes a great point, because Tiger Woods too broke his body down by doing those Navy SEAL workouts, because that's all he cared about was working out and constantly being on the range, and it broke his body down.
Yeah. That's one thing when I think about practice time, that I just had a realization with my youngest son the other day, because I was limiting his Oculus time because he goes crazy, like sweating. This is virtual reality. And I have rarely seen him sweat this much playing outside. And he'll come out of his room and be just sweaty. And I'm like, dude, listen, we got to cut back on this time. And I was thinking about it as I was trying to explain to him why. And man, I don't know if I hit this profound moment. This is probably something everybody knows, but maybe none of us practice or whatever the case is. But I told him, I said, look, for every 30 minutes you do something else, you practice something for 30 minutes a day, you can have 1 hour on your Oculus. Because I really thought about the time that he spent. And I told him yesterday, or this was probably 3 days ago, whatever it was this last week, less than 7 days ago. And I was like, do you understand how good you would be at any given thing if you put as much time into it every day as you did that Oculus? So why don't we just do 30 minutes a day? And I told him pick an instrument, because I'm like, look, if you practice your instrument 30 to an hour a day, every day from now until 10, you'd be better than most 30-year-olds. Mm-hmm. If you do that same thing from 10 to 20, you'd be better than most of the people.
They say there's a stat out there that says if you practice something for 18 minutes continuously every single day for 365 days, you will be in the top 5% of that, whatever that is in the world.
Yeah, because who puts that much effort into anything? What do we? Yeah. Anybody around this table? I challenge you.
I put that much energy into surfing TikTok.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So
I'm awesome at that.
If all of us took that on for the 1 year thing, a 1 year mark, and just said, okay, I'm going to do 30 minutes a day of something.
What's the 10,000 hour rule?
It
takes
very
10,000 hours to be an expert at something. I don't know. That seems like a lot of hours, though. I think it's the 10,000 hour rule.
I don't know. When you break it down, it's not that much. It's like that song from the play on Broadway. It's like 10,600, 700 minutes.
Yeah, it's my movie. Yeah, 3,600 something minutes. Damn, I should know what it is. Yeah,
I'm not good at math as it is. There was also dads and kids. Speaking of kids, there's a kid in hockey that you're pretty stoked about. Losey, who is this? What is this guy about?
Matt Rempe is his name, and he's kind of come in with a little bit of a bang. First off, the New York Rangers have a pretty decent team this year, and this kid's a Western Canadian kid. He's big. He's like 6'7". First ever NHL game. He is playing in an outdoor game against, I think it was either Philly or New York. I forget which one it was, but got in a fight right off the bat in his first shift, which would totally be something I did if I ever got into if I was lucky enough when I was playing to be in in an outdoor game is and not everybody has done it, but there's a few guys. Rupper's gotten one. So anyways, had just a great game. He's a big guy. He's getting in there. He's doing his thing, and then he got kicked out of the game the other day for absolutely smoking a kid. But he's 6'7", and the kid wasn't watching, and he hit him with his elbow, and he followed through. But if the kid was a little bit taller, he would have followed through with his shoulder. But anyways, I just looking around the league in the NHL. This is a new kid that's come in. He's a fairly young kid. Been playing pro now. I think this is his first year pro. So it's probably not. It's probably his second or third year pro. Looks like he was drafted probably as a 17-year-old in 2020. So probably played a couple more years of junior and then turned pro a couple years ago. So he's getting his chance in the National Hockey League. He's making the best out of it. 6'7", 241 pounds. He's 21 years of age and 6th-round pick by the New York Rangers back in 2020. And Jacob Trouba is another kid. He's their captain. He plays defense for the Rangers, and both of these kids are monsters. And I would love to see the Blues try and pick somebody up that has some meat and potatoes in their lunchbox, and both these guys have that.
See, that brings up a question I have. When you look at, like you're talking about Rempe from the Rangers, and he's a rookie, but he gets out there and you see what he can able to do, get the hat trick. But then you look at the Blues and they have Bolduc go out there and he only plays 16 minutes on the ice.
Yeah.
How does that affect a young guy? Is he looking at it like, oh, I must have messed up, that's why I didn't get that much ice time?
No, 16 minutes for a young kid like that's pretty good. That's a pretty decent amount of time. I used to probably average about 6 minutes. So that's give you an idea of what that's like. And that Bolduc kid, he's going to be a good player. He's a first-round draft pick, so they're going to get him up on one of those top two lines, and he's going to get some ice time. But 16 minutes for a second-line player, that's pretty good minutes.
Okay.
What about when you're pulling these kids up and you're talking about meat and potatoes, and then do you think it affects? Okay, I guess the mentality I'm asking about is going into the league. Prior to this, was there ever a fear of I'm going to have to fight? I might have to fight. And then you also have the big guys who are excited about getting in there and fighting. But now, since that's not really a thing any longer, is there less fear? Do you think we're going to get a different breed of player in the next 10 years that is more specialized and less need for aggression?
Listen, I think that what's happened is the NHL tough guys kind of been somewhat eliminated from the game. There's still a bunch of guys that obviously get at it. Fighting's actually up over the last 4 or 5 years, and there's more guys that seem to be kind of taking this role on, but they've really killed it in junior hockey. So at the end of the day, when you take a look at what's going on and where we're at with tough guys, I don't think a guy like Bolduc or some of these top end players, this Rempe's a little different. He's a big tough kid. He's supposed to get out there. He's supposed to hack it up and get in the corners and get some momentum going and be scrappy and get on the body, where I think the Blues are looking from Bolduc to be a little bit more of a player and a guy that's going to get some ice time, put some points on the board, but still be physical. He's a decent-sized kid, so you're going to want him to get out there and be physical. Obviously, everybody needs to be physical, get on puck, stops and starts, do the little things right. For these young kids, when they come in, I think the biggest thing for them is just to make sure that they play a really solid, I'm not going to say safe game, but just make sure you're not trying to do too much. This is a new level. This is the best 700 hockey players on planet Earth all playing in one league. So for him to come in, I don't think he's really worried about getting in a fight. Does that mean that he wouldn't get in a fight if he absolutely had to? No, not at all. Of course he would. But, I don't think that's something that a guy like him would worry about. Where it's a little bit different for Rempe, he's going to need to come in there like he did and make it happen.
Well, so, I guess in that sense, to me, it seems like it's more like a power forward type of position.
Yeah.
So, like the Shaquille O'Neals of a thing. Not the Spreewells, where you could get choked at any second.
Or we could just more the hockey players like Keith Tkachuk or Cam Neely, instead of trying to take a power forward and go to a basketball. There's power forwards in hockey. You should read up and learn about hockey a little bit, Corey.
So, do you think that that's pretty?
Corey didn't even know. When I met Corey, he didn't even know I played for the Blues. He didn't even know that the Blues were alive.
I don't know. I can't tell you 3 people that play in the NHL now, probably. But.
So, and I got a quick question before we take our break. In the NBA, you can see like the big man. Everyone said the center was going away, but you can kind of see the reemergence of that center. It's different. They're not as physical. They're more skilled, but there is a little bit of physicality. Do you think hockey and NHL will kind of revert back to having some of those physical guys? Maybe not as much fighting, but still that physical guy who's going to bring that presence.
The size differential is different. What I mean by that is like when you look at your old school, I'll speak to what I talk about or what I know, and then I'll let Losey talk about it in hockey sense. But like when I look at it in basketball, when you talk about your old big men, like even as late as like the 90s, but especially early on, your Kareem Abdul-Jabbars and your guys of that stature back then were so much bigger than everybody else. And then like when you look in the 90s late 80s when everybody had that dynamic duo, right? There was like Ewing and Starks, and there was like Larry Johnson and Muggsy Bogues. These big guys were so much bigger. Or the Karl Malones and the Larry Johnsons. These guys were physical big men, whereas they were a foot taller and probably 30 pounds heavier than the majority of the guys on the field. Whereas from the outside looking in, and please correct me where I'm wrong or tell me what's different, in the hockey, I've always seen it as like there's not as much stature difference, and maybe that's because I'm looking at it from the outsider with everybody's skates and padded, but there didn't seem to be that much stature difference with people.
So I'd say that the game has gotten smaller in the last 10 years. Fighting has gone down. They've kind of eliminated that tough guy role to where they don't just have guys that sit on the bench and fight anymore. They have guys that are going to go out there and be players and play. That started when I played. You had to be able to play the game as well as be a tough guy. Even that borderline guy like where I was is kind of eliminated. Now it's a different story, and they've just got guys coming in there and learning how to fight. What happens down the line? I think that what happens down the line is there's going to be a minute where you're going to see people. The game change a little bit because the players, the good players, aren't going to want to stand up for themselves like they are today. So that's going to have to come around full circle again. But I think the next time it comes around, fighting's never going to go away. They're just going to have to learn how to do it at the pro hockey level, and that's the difference between when I was up.
Right, because with when the Golden State Warriors were dynasty was going, everybody said, "Oh, we have to go small." But now in the NBA, it seems like you have Jokic, Embiid, Victor Wembanyama. They're starting to go big. So you think that's going to happen in the NHL where they go, okay, we don't have to go completely
it's
big,
strategy and gameplay,
but we got to be physical
I think it's
to take
similar
away
to what
the
you're
skills.
saying is these big men that are coming in can shoot, they can move. They're not just big slugs that are going to slam dunk anymore like they did back in the day. It's the same thing. These guys are going to have to be players that are big and tough, but they're going to have to be fleet-footed and be able to skate and compete and at that high level with the little guys that are in the game.
So they're going to be able to take you out physically, but also be able to score on you with their skills.
Exactly.
That's what we call a double threat. So. Speaking of double threats, we're going to take a quick double threat break. We're going to come right back to you with our last segment of the day and talk a little bit about profound lessons that we've learned and that we want to pass on. Thanks for joining us so far today. See you after the break here on Punchline.
In fact, it was a little bit frightening.
Welcome back to Punchline. With Corey and your boy Losey here, and get in the Joe, Auto Joe.
Auto Joe.
So we're going to talk about some lessons here that maybe we've passed on and some other things. And to kind of narrow it down, I wanted to work a little bit retroactively on this and then have Losey follow it up. But one of the things that I've created with my sons is the rain dance mentality. And I kind of got it from a lesson that my grandfather taught me, but it was different in the sense that the way I talk about it is, and I don't know this to be true, but the way I always tell my sons is that the reason the rain dance worked is because it didn't matter if they had to dance for 2 hours or for 2 weeks. You dance until it rains. And so the idea behind that is like what my grandfather used to talk about, how like you can't, I guess far less prolific, but when you look deeper into it, he used to always talk about the lottery in the sense that like you can't play if you can't win if you don't play, right? So along those same lines, his lesson that he would talk about was that we didn't ask for things, we earned things. And I kind of have translated that into teaching my own sons that we earn things through hard work. And I was thinking about it even this morning as I was kind of talking about this topic in my own head, is that there's a difference in the work ethic of putting something together for a purpose and putting something together with the mentality that you know you're going to achieve it. And when you are trying to accomplish something that's fleeting, or you have a goal that is a goal based on envy of other people and what they have and what you don't have, or when you're putting together a goal based on what you know your purpose should be. And it's easier not to quit when you know what your purpose should be, because you have that visual idea in your head and you're always working towards that same goal. So you can work really, really hard. The way I see it in life as I've gotten older is you can work really, really hard when you're young and have a pretty easy life when you're older. Or you can slack off and not work towards those goals when you are young and have a really hard life until you pass, because you're always making up for that lost ground. And so I always try and look at what he talked about with you earn it, you don't ask for it, you don't take it for granted, and pass that on to my sons as we're going to work towards our goal, and it's not going to matter if you reach your goal at 15 or 55, because you're not going to want it any less. And so I think about that a lot. It's like, I don't want any less today what I wanted when I was 21. It's just that my path is different. My goal is the same.
Yeah, I think that when you look at that insight, for me, my goal was to make the NHL. And at the age of 31, I'd kind of accomplished it. At the age of 24, I accomplished it, and then I played 4 years, and then we had a lockout, and then I broke my jaw, and then I was up and down in the minors, and I had to make a decision, like, what am I going to do? And so I think that as we form goals, and me being 47 years old and being able to kind of look, my mom always used to tell me that you live life in decades. And when I take a look back at my life, I really feel like it's truth. And there's going to be ups and downs and ins and outs and all the way around when we take a look at what life is about. And as we start to kind of get a little bit older and understand who we were, who we are, as I've spent the last 3 or 4 years digging into trying finding that healing magic inside of myself so that my mind's a little bit better. I think as we get a little bit older, we can get a little bit, our mind can start to play against us a little bit. And for me, I there's one lesson that I'll always take with me, and I still teach it to little young hockey kids that I'm coaching, or people that I'm working with. In anything, this isn't just a sports theme. This is a life lesson for me. And there's only 3 things that we have control over in our lives: how great a teammate we are, how coachable we are. And when I say, teammate, I mean play for the name on the front, not the name on the back, sacrifice yourself, do the little things that you have to do in order for the team to win, and don't look for a selfish outcome on whether or not I was the one winning or who's getting the recognition or whatever that case may be. And then when it comes to being coachable, if you're the veteran on the team, or if you're the boss at work, or the leader on the team, or wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, always make sure that you're coachable, even to those that are younger than you and less experienced than you, because there's probably something you can learn. And if you're blocking that out, you're probably going to have less of an opportunity to learn as you get a little bit older in life. And then I think for me, the third thing, and these are really for me the only 3 things we truly, truly, truly have control over in our life, is the last one is, are you willing to outwork the guy next to you? Are you willing to outwork the guy across from you, and do it at all costs? And I think if, when I take a look at my life growing up, all the times I was cut from hockey, the amount of times I wanted to quit hockey, the amount of times that I always reverted back to this moment where I felt like, if I can just focus on these 3 things, I really shouldn't have to worry about anything else. And so that would probably be, and I give that, not only inspiration to, hopefully, to my children too, but it was funny because on my 12-year-old Ollie, he's been really working hard on his behavior. He's a great kid, but he's very full. he has a lot of energy, but he's really working at it. So this morning I got tired of arguing with him. My ex-wife has him during the weeks, and I have him on the weekends. So I got tired of fighting with him to go to bed at a decent time. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to force him to go to bed anymore. I'm just going to make sure whenever I get up in the morning,
He's
I'm
up.
going to wake him up. And so I take our dog Tito in there, and I'm like, hey, and so Tito's licking his face, and he jumps up on the bed, and he gets him up. And so anyways, all I got up, and I'm like, hey, listen, I go, your sister's going to do the dishes, clean the kitchen this morning. And I said, there's about 40 landmines out there, because my dog's he's got diabetes. He was with my sister for 4 or 5 months, just because I couldn't handle him. She got him regulated, and now he's back with me, and which I'm super happy about. But there's all these landmines in the backyard. I'm like, you got to go do this. And he just muscled up, got his clothes, warm clothes on, got the bucket out there, got it doing it. And then he comes in all done. And he's like, I hammered that 20 minutes, Dad. And he's getting excited over doing some stuff and always bragging about how he's not playing his video games as much. And then he's like, I don't have to do the dishes, do I? Ava's got to do all the dishes. And I said, yeah. I said, Ava's got to do all the dishes. I'm like, but if you wanted to help her, I said, that'd be a cool, good brother. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go put the clean ones away for her. So I went in and he cleaned all the clean ones up, and Ava came down, and I go, see, your brother even helped you out. And she's like, yeah, whatever. She's not happy about having to do dishes, but it's fun. I've got a 21-year-old and an 18-year-old boys, and then I've got 12-year-old twins. And so there's a fairly significant gap in that 6-7 years between them. And so I feel like I raised 2 boys, and I kind of have a new lease on life on raising these other 2 along the line. And as much as I take a look at what my dad taught me, and my grandparents and my aunt and uncle, uncles, aunt and uncles, they all had a hand in raising us all. It was a community, not a whatever. It's good to know that as long as you have a whole lot of love in your heart, the song "To Be a Man," it's not how you feel, it's what you provide inside that home. And ever since I heard that song, that's rung in my ears. So that's probably. And
time is a lot of it, right? I was really under the impression that there always had to be an adventure instead of just being like, oh, we need to sit down and do something. I had my son do a chore that I regretted. Actually, not until this morning. So when there's a holiday on a Monday, our whole trash day shifts one day. Yeah.
Ours too.
Yeah, I guess.
That's not just your house.
It's not just you.
Well, I knew it wasn't my house specifically. But I wasn't sure if it was like a neighborhood thing. So usually trash is out Thursday mornings. And so like Thursday after school, I was down and out, and I had Tyson just go ahead and walk back and forth. And usually he rides his dirt bike now too, but that was a nice day. He went to walk with his buddies. So he comes back, and it's like the evening time, and I'm like, hey, man, why don't you bring those trash cans up? Because I had put them down in the morning. And so he brought them up. And then Friday, I heard this noise, and I was like, what the heck? And then this morning, because it still didn't register, I walked outside, and typically like the day after trash, there'll still be some sporadic neighbors with the trash cans out. And so I saw quite a few trash cans with their lids open, and I'm like, huh? And then I walked over. He did bring the cans up like I asked him to, but they were both full of trash stuff. and this was a crucial week because typically we'll go like 2 weeks without putting the trash out. We don't produce a lot. But in this week in particular, I had just prepared all that food for the Chasing Dream things Tuesday and Wednesday. So I have all these Sam's Club boxes in my thing waiting to be broken down and put in the thing. And so now I have this cardboard fortress under my counter because I was like, bring the cans up, and he was like, I did it, Dad. I'm like, good job. Like,
no, take them back down.
Yeah, unbeknownst to me, I messed this all up. So I threw the whole house off.
Ours is Tuesday, and it's everything. I think my son might even be listening down in Georgia. He's down racing in Georgia, Connor. Getting him to think about taking the trash can from the side of the house down to the sidewalk before he goes to work every Tuesday morning is like pulling teeth out of dentist. But he has been up in his game around the house. He got tired of Dad nagging, and he's been up in his game. And then my other son, Cooper, he's our chef in the family. He's always coming over to my house to cook something, but he does a lot of dishes for me too. So I'm pretty lucky. These kids are jumping on board a little bit with the fact that Dad pays for the house, Dad provides the food, Dad provides the beds to sleep in, all the heat and water. If you helped out a little bit, it'd sure put a smile on old Dad's face.
Dad nagging should be a new segment. Dad nabbit. One thing that I started forcing my son to do is spend time with me, and I told him it was because I'd let him stay up a little later. So 8:30 is when he has to go into bed, and all I did was just move the time periods back. So now at 8 o'clock, I'm like, all right, you can get ready for bed now, or you can watch an episode or part of a movie with me for half an hour. And so now it's just become a thing where he just comes in at 8 o'clock and we watch something, which is cool because I get to watch him laugh about stuff and like talk with him about whatever we're watching, which lately has been Gravity Falls. But instilling those chores and those things, the things that I used to fight as a parent, I enjoy now because I think about it retrospectively in the sense that I have a great amount of love and respect for my grandparents and mom and stepdad, and they made me do stuff and they gave me a schedule. And sometimes I want to be like appeasing to the children and be like, well, what do you want to watch tonight? What do you want to eat tonight? And I forget like, oh, I never once got that option.
Yeah.
Like never.
It matters.
Never did I go into the living room with my grandfather. I was like, hey, what would you like to see on the television this evening? Like the only time that I felt like I was getting to watch what I wanted to watch was during the holidays because there was holiday specials on and he would watch those and I got to watch them with him. Or late at night. Sometimes when my grandmother would go to bed, he would let me kind of stay up and watch the Benny Hill show. And that was
you
pretty
guys
racy.
are old.
Oh my God!
I wasn't
the
watching
Benny Hill show?
I wasn't watching.
I hope you were watching reruns.
Yes, of course. It was in Syndicate. I'm only 40. I wasn't
funny.
like, can't wait for the new Benny Hill.
I watched live Dukes of Hazzard. It's the old one. Like
Oh,
every
really?
Friday night. I got to watch Dukes of Hazzard, but I had to go to bed. So my parents didn't want me to watch Dallas. It's too much drama.
Dallas can be scary.
That's great. That's funny.
Yeah, we're not that old. That'd be wild though.
TV
right?
didn't go off on you guys when you guys were little?
No.
Yeah. Okay, you guys aren't that old.
I only did have. I
had
had one
to
in the
get out
house.
of bed and walk over and push a button.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I didn't have one in my.
And there wasn't this
Your
flat
parents
screen.
called you in the house when you were out there on the pond?
Little 14 inches. I sat right like this, and Mom was like, "You're gonna lose your eyesight." She was
It
right.
had that little the tuner where if you passed the channel, you had to go all the way through back again.
The whole neighborhood would gather around the radio for the shadow.
That's funny.
No, it wasn't that old. We did
Not
only
that
have
old.
one television in the house, though. So, like, when my uncle and I had an Atari, and we
There you go.
had finally, sometime when he was in, like, high school, got a television upstairs, and it was a little dinky TV that probably still weighed, I'm sure, like 60 pounds. And we used to play Atari on that thing. That was pretty special. So, profound lessons and things that we carry on are always a good time. Next week, we want to lay out some questions for the thing, and one thing that we have all been guilty of. I think Joe might have been the only one that's mentioned it so far on any of the shows, but we have a text line. Joe, what's that text line?
855-282-8255.
So go and check out RL34 events on Facebook. That is where we will be posting information about any upcoming events that we're going to be a part of, as well as upcoming shows and details on how we want to progress this. And stay tuned because we'll have a YouTube here before long where you'll be able to watch us do some fun things too. But
I actually think it comes up Readlow34, doesn't it?
on Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's double check it. I mean,
Who's
you're
right?
probably,
Who's wrong? I was already one. I'm one.
This isn't a right and wrong thing. This is just
Two
No,
and
I know it is. It is.
okay. It's
for me.
it's Relow 34. Good thing.
It's like that on Twitter, too, right?
Yeah, good thing.
Low Read 34 on Twitter.
Yeah.
Good thing we're not prideful about
Nope.
what we're talking about
Hey,
here. There's
listen,
a winner and
I
a
want-
loser.
I want to get it right, not
Winner
be
and
right. If
loser.
I happen to be right, I'm a little extra happy. Okay.
So go to Readlow 34 events. Don't go to Readlow's personal page
It's
because
just
there's a picture of him with a cowboy
Readlow
hat.
34. There's no events on it. It's Readlow 34.
Where do I get
I want
events
to get
from?
that right. Well, because that's the events company that I have. So, but it's just Readlow 34, and that's where the events page is at.
Readlow 34 to find out about events.
See you guys next Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Appreciate you joining us here. My boy Corey, JoJo,
Yes, sir.
Auto Joe, and your boy Losey. Thanks for having us, folks.
Peace out.
Bye.